Hello, Mr. Isaka. How are you?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm fine.
How do you do?
Could you? I cannot see
My
you,
camera, right?
my friend.
Yeah, I do not know what's wrong with the camera here. Okay, hold on. I think it's showing the back of my computer screen. So now, let me put the camera. Let me switch it up. Okay. Can you see me now?
Yeah, I can see
All
you
right.
now.
Okay.
Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to our online meeting. I'm Қуаныш Жұмабекұлы. I'm pleased to introduce tonight's guest speaker, Isiaka Abubakar Ubaji Easy. He's from Nigeria. He's a poet. You know that.
Thank you very much for having me.
You know that in these times, the importance of adaptation to change. You know that in these times, I mean, the importance of adaptation to change becomes more relevant, as it's not the strongest or the smartest who survive, but how to say?
Yeah.
But those who can best adapt to change. For this reason, in these especially challenging times, flexibility to current and future change becomes more important than ever. I would like to ask you, are you adapted to change during the COVID-19 pandemic?
All right. Thank you very much for the question. But I thought you said that it's going to be a group thing. I thought there were going to be others here. Are they? Do you have your friends here too as well, or your colleagues?
Me?
Do you have your friends here as well? Okay. I felt maybe you would have introduced me to the team before we go forward. But there's no problem anyway. Talking about the adapting to change in the COVID-19 pandemic, we do have a saying around here. I don't know if you have the same proverb, which says that nothing is permanent. You know, man is meant to adapt to changes, not just man, basically all organisms, because it's our ability to adapt to change that has kept the human lineage surviving to now. So if you're unable to accept change when it comes, then you will be blown away by the wind of change. So, and therefore, as a human being, you have to adjust to certain situations that come around. You know, as being a teacher, especially, it's been quite a tough period of time, because you know you wake up one morning and you suddenly hear that there's a pandemic in town. Then your school has to be shut down, and you have to find means of surviving, you know. And I think initially, when schools shut down, you know, I had to start looking for writing jobs online, etc. But I discovered that not very many people were also on that track too. So I decided to change my path. Then we came up with an idea in my institution to deliver lessons online, which we weren't doing before. So we had to get the students together, for example, and teach them how to use online resources like Zoom, Skype, WhatsApp to have communication with their teachers, got their numbers registered on our phones, created WhatsApp group, Telegram groups, etc., to ensure that we are still delivering these lessons to the students so that they don't stay at home idle doing nothing. So, and we send assignments, they have to do it and send the replies or answers via emails to their teachers. So this was a system we had to adapt to. This was not something I was used to. Quite rather, I've been teaching online in the past, but maybe just a few students, maybe 1, 2, 3, and suddenly I had to change the routine. And now I had to teach about 15, 20 students at a time online. And you know, it's quite a daunting task, and the assignments will keep coming in. Sometimes you ask students to send an assignment, they would not send it on time. Maybe they will send it at the time you're supposed to have in that class, and you have to mark all these assignments and send back to them. So it was a daunting experience, but you know, your ability to adapt to changes is what makes you who you are. It's what makes you set for the world and able to survive in tough times and periods. So, you know, it's quite challenging when you're online and you are teaching and you notice that your students actually dozing off, the eyes start closing and is sleeping, because when students don't find themselves in outside the classroom situations, they're in the comfort of their room. So they are sitting on the chair or on the bed, and they are just looking at you through it's different from when you have them in class physically. So you can actually interact with them better that way. But online, they are in the comfort of their room. You cannot tell them. So I'll notice that while the class is going on, some of them are dozing off. So I have to come up with ways to make the class more interesting for the students, so that when it's engaging, they can actually, derive something from it and be happy. They will look forward to the next class the next day. So even if they cannot have access, if they don't have access to data, they will find a way to get. If they have to get it from their parents' phone, they will ensure that they come online, because I had to mix my classes with games, we play language games and come up with ideas of individual telling stories and like that. So in that way, I was still able to teach the things I want to teach, but in a different method. So changes came in various ways for many people, but I can tell you that it was an ugly experience having to stay indoors for several months, going on, and you're not aware of what is going to happen next in the world. It was just like you were watching the world shut down before your very eyes. And I wouldn't want to say this, but I think it's important to say. I want to say that I think we are just an unlucky generation to have had this experience of this pandemic. The last time this happened, I think there was the bubonic plague in England and the Spanish flu. That was way long time before now. And suddenly this is coming at this time. And, with this, many lives have been truncated by the advent of this pandemic. Most people have plans. They cannot go on with their plans because basically work stopped for them. And when work stops, money also stops. So, and the lesson I've come to learn from this pandemic is the fact that we can see what the future holds for us from this experience. So we need to prepare for the future. Education, for instance, which is my field, can no longer be based on teaching physical classrooms. We have to also engage ourselves, adapt to the idea of teaching online, so that where you can teach more students and make it really engaging and interesting for your students. To come up with ways in which this idea could be achieved. If you're not able to come up with that, you'll be relegated to the past. And that is what the world of today demands. So we have to move in tune with technology, and which most teachers are not prepared for. We still believe in the idea of having students sit before us and teach on the board, but now ideas have to come in. So basically, I saw myself trying various other things. Some of my students complained that they couldn't get in touch with. They don't like to use Skype because it was always faulty. I think at the time Skype was giving issues, especially during the pandemic. We had to switch to Zoom. When Zoom became ineffective, we also tried Telegram. When we saw that Telegram was not working, we tried WhatsApp. Assignments were sent on various platforms through WhatsApp, through emails. Every technology available for chatting or online communication, we experimented with them to see which was best. And as of now, I can tell you I have those applications on my phone, and from time to time we still conduct discussion with the students. And I think having it online has brought me closer to my students. Now I can have most of them like that. Before, we only get to meet in the class during class hours, but now they come online, have a small chat, talk to me, and I respond, and I feel closer to them, and they also feel closer to me. So when we come to class, we would say, hey, we were discussing something online last night. Do you remember what we were talking about? Okay, then we continue the discussion. So it's more like a family thing now with my students, and I think it's not a bad thing all the same. So if we are counting our losses, we should also be counting the gains that we've got from the pandemic. So it's important for everyone to be able to adapt to the situation at that time. And if you're not able to adapt, then it means that you find yourself in a very tough situation. So I think I'm happy that I was able to, change my my style of working during that period. And today it has left me with a huge experience in terms of teaching online. My understanding of how to teach online has improved, and I think now I'm very confident when delivering lessons online. I know what tools to apply and what method or techniques to apply. And even as of now, I'm still learning more, because virtually even now, I still do teach online. So it's very, very important to be able to adapt to change.
I got you. In the same time, we hope that this COVID-19 will pass soon. I know, Mr. Isiaka,
Yes.
I know that you are a poet and you write a lot of things about many different books. And I would like to ask you, do you come from a literary background?
If what you mean by literary background is not the written work, yes, because my father was not actually interested in writing. Neither was my mom, but there was this, there is this idea, this tradition of storytelling, not just in my family, in most African family, we have this tradition of storytelling where your parents gather you at night under the glare of moonlight. In the past, in the ancient past, it used to be maybe your grandfather or an old man in the village will gather the children together under a tree. Then they will make a small fire with wood. Then the children will sit around the fire while the old man tells the story. So my grandfather used to perform such tasks in his younger days when he got old. So as at the time I was born in the city, and we do go to see my grandfather during our holidays, and he will still gather us and tell us stories of tortoises, elephants, and other animals like that. Basically, these are folk tales meant to teach moral lessons. And this tradition continued with my father as well. When he comes home at night, we do ask him to tell us stories. So we have to sit close to him, just outside our house, and he would tell us stories. So these has formed the foundation of my being engaged, my love for storytelling and poetry. So when I think it was at the time I was growing up, my father also fueled my love for storytelling by buying him books. We used to have these Ladybird books from England then that he bought, and he gave me the stories of Jack and Jane. I do remember Little Boy and Little Girl and their friends. So we read such stories as growing up, and it's actually made me very much interested in writing and the English language. And as I grew up, I found that I took the position of my father. I usually listen to stories from my father, and I would gather my friends in the evening and tell them these same stories. So that was where my interest in storytelling started from, actually. And as I grew up, even when I got to the university, I had to study English language, and when you have to study English language and literature, your professors would come with volumes of novels that you had to read. Some of them were quite difficult, like Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. He's a Russian writer who writes in English. And from Heart of Darkness, the book was a bit complex, and most of my friends could not comprehend the meaning of the text or even understand what the story was all about. So I had to read it then and put it in a simpler manner to them, retell the story actually in a way that they would understand what was actually going on. And I found out that when I tell the stories, they pay rapt attention to me, and they are better able to answer questions in the exam based on what I've told them of the story. So in that way, I discovered my talent for storytelling, and I also felt that the folktale tradition was dying. These days, parents do not have time for their children. They don't have time for their young ones to get them together and tell them the stories. And these stories were the foundation of our upbringing. So when you pull us out of this environment and you try to change things, people are becoming westernized. Parents live in a city where they have to go to work from 7 a.m. and return at night at 9 p.m. and they don't even have time for their own kids anymore. So, and the urge, when I saw this tradition dying, I had to come up with a way to tell the stories, and that was the initiation of my YouTube channel, where I tell folk tales. And these folk tales were basically folk tales told to me by my father or his own father. So there is that tradition of storytelling in my family, and my mom also loves to tell stories too. So this was it was natural that I should also evolve into a storyteller as I am today. And there is nothing I love more than telling stories or reading about stories or even listening to stories.
Yeah, you said a great thing. Your telling stories is a very natural thing. it's come from your father, and as you said, it's very interesting for me, and it's more interesting. I mean, this question: what inspires you to write poetry?
Poetry. Poetry. Now, what inspires me? I think we can say three basic things. Well, the first one, we could say the society. Then, secondly, we could say nature. And thirdly, we would say love. So these are the three things that inspire me to write poetry. The society, in the sense that I believe that the poet is the vanguard of society, right? That means that he is to correct the ills, the societal ills, the wrongs, observe the wrong and the right of society, and speak up when injustice is predominant in the society. The poet has to act like a soldier of words and fight against oppression and injustice. I have that instinctive belief as a poet, and basically I've seen other poets fall in line with that. So you've had in Africa, you've got people like Masisi Kunene of South Africa, who wrote poetry against apartheid regime, and he ended up being killed or shot to death. You've had poets like Wole Soyinka from Nigeria, the first African Nobel laureate, and he was also a poet as well as a novelist and a playwright. Most dominantly, his playwriting aspects is what dominates. And these people have been incarcerated, jailed for writing poetry against the government, to criticize the corruption in the society, and it goes on and on like that. But you see, what I know is that great literature thrives where there is oppression and suppression. People would have to speak up, and the voice of the poet is usually the loudest because he knows how to capture the message in a hidden way. He knows how to pass his message across in a hidden way to the audience that he wants to get it to. So, and therefore, whenever you have a repressive or oppressive regime or administration of government, there's always hatred for the poet or the writer, because they know the writer would not sit back and watch. The writer must speak. So basically, I found myself writing to criticize the corruption in the society where I see oppression, I could write against that. Where I have seen people behaving badly, I could write to comment on those things as well. So I've always found myself being inspired by the society in that aspect. Then when it comes to love, I see love as a universal theme, and every human being, even every animal, every living organism can understand what love is. So, and being as it is, be it love for humanity, be it love to the opposite sex, or even love to people that are around you, right? I find the need to express that love sometimes in poetry, and I notice that most of my poems written on love are the ones that are read all around the place. And when you talk of love too, love doesn't have to come in terms of in a peaceful manner. It can be an expression of the anger against war. Take for instance, I've written against terrorism, due to the fact that it disintegrates society, breaks up the society and keeps people apart. When there is war, the father goes a different way, the mother goes a different way. The father becomes a soldier, he is killed at war. The mother becomes a widow. So these things happen, and the son and the child becomes an orphan. So these things happen, and I find the expression of the theme of love also encapsulated somehow in war, because when you condemn war, you're asking for peace. When you ask for peace, you're asking for love, right? So then nature is another point in time, another aspect, another thing that influences me. Sometimes I might just look at the wind blowing, when it's hammer time, that's the winter, what you might call winter in your own side, your own part of the country. The wind blowing I can be mesmerized by the wind, and it can inspire me to write a poem. Then that was last year, in December last year. I went to the top of my house here, and I was standing on the roof, So while breathing in the air, you know, the winter air blowing very cool and, you know, soothing to the body somehow, it inspired me to come up with a poem. And, you know, sometimes it might be the calmness of the month of Ramadan when Muslims have to fast. During the afternoon, most people will go into sleep and everyone will become quiet. So these kind of things can actually move me to writing. It may be the mountains, the sea, the river. So I'm inspired by just these three things: nature, love, and the society.
I understood. You told about three important things about poetry, right? Your third important thing was love. What do you think about it? For many poets, love is in the first place. And the second question is, you know, that almost all poetry has messages to deliver. Lots of them, I mean, profound and diverse as stars. Some poems, how to say, have many subjects, and some have subjects that aren't clear. Looking for the poem's subject is natural. What is your favorite subject to write poetry about?
Like I told you, I am my poetry. I don't ever recall ever picking a pen to write a poem based on I just want to write on this topic. There has to be some feeling that comes first. I have to feel something, probably disgust, anger at something, or overwhelming love for something. It is when I feel like this that I'm able to commit my thoughts to paper. If I do not feel, if I don't have the feeling, it's difficult for me to write. I would try, sit down, but the feeling is not. So I have to get into that mood that inspires me to write. So basically, I have written a lot about on societal trends, you know, things happening in society, be it from corruption, killings, terrorism. It's been on these topics, but I've also written a lot on love too. With love for Africa, love for country, love for the opposite sex. So I've always been motivated by these two things, and also on war. We can say war can be classed as part of societal happenings as well. So also on nature too. You know, I haven't read the romantics. I mean, writers like William Wordsworth, P.B. Shelley, you know, Dorothy Wordsworth, Dorothy Williams, a lot of the romantics like that, and especially Shakespeare. If you're familiar with Shakespeare, you know, most of his conceits or his metaphorical allusions are usually hinged on nature. You know, comparing your eyes to translucent sun, you know, comparing the eyes of a woman to the moon, to flowers. So basically, you find yourself veering towards nature in describing when you need to write a poem of such. So nature becomes a form of inspiration. So my main topic would be on societal happenings, say war, corruption, etc. So these kind of things are the things that push me into writing. When I feel I need to criticize or talk about what is happening in society, the emotion well ups in me. It may be anger because somebody who is not supposed to die has died, or somebody who is not supposed to lose their life has lost their lives. So it makes me angry, and my reaction is to bring it out in tranquility, as what defines poetry, to commit my thoughts to paper and have it published online. That's what I normally do.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I would like to ask about theaters now. As you know, theater has been around for centuries.
Oh, that's quite interesting. Okay, let's talk about theaters.
Because I'm in the theater now, you know. As you know, theater has been around for centuries. It's one of the oldest forms of entertainment, you know, giving us insight into our histories, myths, and the human experience. Please tell us about theaters in your country. It's very, very interesting for us.
Theater in my country, you know, a lot has happened in the theoretical world today. It's not what it used to be in the past. First, theater is as old as man, as you say. It's a very old art, and every society has a form of the theater, right? And but the one that came to hold an important position when it comes to theater as we know it today would be that of the classical Greco-Roman theater. The plays where you had a place like Oedipus Rex by Sophocles. You have Agamemnon, Medea, and some other ancient texts like that, or plays which were acted then. It kept on developing. But even then, theater in Africa is more intertwined with ritual practices and festivals most often. And then the theater was not the formal one of having it on stage. People come out. It was theater that was much more engaged in dance, in ritualistic performance, acrobatics. You have people coming out to enact scenes, songs. There were a lot of things that were inculcated in the theater of those times. But when the Western theater came into Nigeria, it came as a result of colonialism. With English teachers coming from the UK to teach in Nigeria, then most of our young people who were interested in writing picked up the love for theater. Mm-hmm. But as time went on, theater was a bit dismantled by technological advancement. You don't find people picking in the past, say in the 1960s or 1950s, we had theater troupes in Nigeria that would move around. There was one by a man known as Olaiya. I can't really remember the full name anymore. Moses Olaiya, yeah, that's his name. And there was another. There were various troupes of theater who moved around. We call them Arijo theater group. They move from place to place and give demonstrations. And it could just be in a marketplace. They choose a particular location. People would come there, and they would get to a town, go around, make announcements, and tell people that they've arrived. Then they will also announce the venue where the theater is, where the play is going to be, where it's going to take place. And most of these plays were based on myths or history. That was what they enacted then. Their plays were based on popular myths and history that most of the audience could connect with. These are myths of ancient time that most people are aware of, or stories of heroes of the olden days. So these were the kind of plays that were enacted on the stage, and people paid some few money to attend to watch the drama. But as time went on, you had the advent of television, the cinema. The interest in plays has reduced, and this reduction of interest did not just start in my country. And we could say it started from the Western world as early as the Victorian period, with the proliferation of novels in England. Then when the time of Charles Dickens, Thomas Hardy, Charles Dickens wrote Oliver Twist and some other books, Great Expectations. These books were written by Charles Dickens, and they were at that time most people enjoyed reading prosaic work. And theater was far away from reality, because theater was still dominated by the Shakespearean style of writing in verse, like in poetic verse. So, people felt that the novel was more realistic because it explains things as they are, and it used day-to-day language. So most people became very familiar. In fact, as much as 70,000 novels were published in the Victorian era of the English history. So when theater came to Nigeria, or could I say Africa, it was a novelty. We did not have that form of theater. We had theaters, but our theater was more of that attached to festivals or ritual. You only had to make those performances in festivals and ritual. And but this was coming. You could just decide on any day, you go there and watch films. It doesn't have to be attached to any specific festival then. And people were going. But as time went on and television came, television took over the theater, and also the cinema took over the influence of theater in society. But there are still theaters. The theaters are still very much alive. we still have some crop of writers writing. People like Paul Ubede wrote piece by pieces, I think. Then there is Abdul Umar. We have Abdul Yerima Abdul. There are still people who are very much interested in writing plays for the theater, and so far so good. They've been making a success at it and getting the audience that is required to watch their films, even though it's not much. You don't get much revenue from it as it used to be in the past. Things have changed, you know, but there is that rekindling of interest in theater or plays produced in the theater. So I think in time to come, people will get tired of television and they want to do something outdoors, you know. Staying indoors all the time, people do not like it. So they may want to do something outdoors and they need to, you know, see the theater as a place to watch live drama becomes imperative. So most people would virtually turn around to come to the theater. But that time to be seen more as a thing of enjoyment, you know, something you do at your leisure time to relax, not like what it was in the past when it was more like the happening place for people. You know, now you have to go to amusement parks when you don't have anything to do, you feel you're at your leisure. But I think the theater will become the amusement parks of the future if the current crop of writers continue at the pace at which they are going today. So in my country, I can say the theater is of two parts. The one that's attached to festivals and ritualistic performances, and the one which is the ancient form of theater before the Western theater came. This one is still very much alive, but it is only done on specific days which are attached to the rituals of the people. That's when it is done. It's more like a live theater. It's a theater without a script, where you see performances by masks, people wearing masks. We actually identify them as spirits, not as human beings. So we have to believe that people have to believe that these are beings from the extraterrestrial world who have come to visit the surreal world and the corporeal world, and you know, pass message from the great beyond to those of us that are here. So you have this dancing, costume, every element of theater is present there, but it's the script is what is missing, because this is not based on script. People just come and dance and have fun and go back home. But the Western theater has experienced a decline since it started in the 1940s, 1930s, like that, up till this very period. So, but I believe that there can be a surge in the future, because I can see that more and more people are getting interested. For me as a teacher, I would tell you that my interest in theater is on the script, because I found out that if I have to teach my students English, I need conversations to teach them English, and the play script offers me an opportunity to do that, because if I have a play script with me, I can actually find characters, so I can tell my students, okay, you play this role, and they would actually try to interpret the characters in the play. So I find it very useful in class, and so I found out that I have to teach my students some part of drama and theater in class while teaching them English as well. So I believe it's a pari passu, because for me, theater is a representation or an imitation of life, the way Aristotle also looks at it as well. So if they are able to imitate the characters in the play which I've given to them and give good performances, well, it's a good thing. So it means that there is improvement. They will learn the language, and they will learn non-verbal aspect of communication as well, because when you teach students language, the part that is most difficult is the non-verbal aspect of language, where you have to tell them that this is how you are supposed to look when you are saying this, or this is how you are supposed to use your hands when talking. So, and when they have to dramatize the script, they will learn those aspects as well. So it makes work very easy for me. So I keep encouraging young writers to keep writing. And when they write, I want to review their books and tell them how they could better improve it, or make it better, or tweak it a bit to make it look very good.
You got important information from you about theaters in general. Thank you. Unfortunately, our online meeting is coming to its end, and the last question is for today, like that. What advice would you like to give to those who want to go to Nigeria?
Nigeria is a large country. When I say large, I mean in terms of Africa. It's the largest in Africa, though. So, and with a population of over 2 billion people, so you could, from there, if you are looking at it from the business angle, I do tell people that even if you have to sell rocks in Nigeria, you'll find a buyer, because with that much of population, you would always get people who are interested in what you want to sell. So, and aside from that, if you're looking at it from the tourist angle, well, Nigeria has a lot of fun places that you could visit. There are lots of tourist attraction. We've got places like the Idore Hills, Obudukatu Ranch in Cross River. There is a cave in Enugu, which is an ancient cave that you could also visit. So there are places that you could go to. One thing is that has disparaged the country, or that has put the country in a bad light, is media representation of Nigeria. As it is currently now, we are battling with insurgency. We have some group of people named by the Ugo, by the name Boko Haram, who are engaged in terrorist activities in the country. But if you look at it, these things are only happening in a part of the country that is not even up to 10% of the entire country. So now this doesn't stop it doesn't stop foreigners from coming in to the country, and they do not have to go to that area where these killings or terrorist activities are dominant. You know, there are places like Lagos that you could visit, and which is the most popular city in Nigeria, where you have about 20 million people. It's very populated, and the area you meet people, you know, have fun, learn the language, eat the food. Nigerian food is very, very unique. I cannot compare it to food from anywhere else in the world. And I can assure you that once you eat it, you would not want to go back to your country anymore. So there is a lot of things you could actually learn about Nigeria if you do come around, be it business, be it for tourist attraction. You could come around. The capital city is Abuja, but Lagos, Port Harcourt are the happening places, and you could actually visit even Abuja itself and you know, feel relaxed, have fun. It's a place for everyone to visit. You know, just like we do say that don't die without visiting Paris. I would say that don't die without visiting Nigeria.
Okay. Mr. Isiaka, thank you very much for taking time to speak to us. Our tonight's guest speaker was from Nigeria, Isiaka Abubakar Ubaji Easy. Thank you everyone for being with us today. See you. Bye bye.
All right. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.